And sometimes that song's really angsty, and sometimes that kind of comes across in the writing. Hi, I'm Claudia, and I have some bad habits when I'm writing fanfiction. I've been actively writing fanfiction for over a year now, and from that I can tell you I have some real bad habits. Because writing a fanfic is hard, okay? Sometimes it's really hard, and sometimes you do some not so good things when you're writing it, and it doesn't go super well, okay? Before we get into like the actual video, I should say I do sound a little weird. I am sick right now, but I probably won't have another chance to record for like 3 weeks, so we're doing this anyway. Who knows how well this is gonna go? I was planning on filming a different video today, but then I was like, I don't have the brain power for that right now, so we're filming this instead. So I've been like actively writing fanfiction since January of 2025. I started off writing one-shots, then I did a little multi-chapter fic, then I went back to one-shots, and now I'm writing like a big multi-chapter fic that's currently like 20-something chapters deep. But my first bad habit kind of applies to all of those fanfics, and that is that I don't plan. This is really bad, okay? I do not plan pretty much anything when it comes to my fanfics. With my big multi-chapter one, I have planned more than most, and by planning I mean I have an idea and I think that will happen at about this time in the story, and that's my only plan. With my one-shots, I have like a vague idea and I just kind of go for it, and that's the entire plan. And sometimes that doesn't go so well. Like there's been multiple times with a lot of my one-shots where I've got halfway through and I've thought, okay, what do I write now? And it also means I have quite a few like partially written one-shots where I've written like 200 words and then I'm like, okay, that was my whole idea, where do I go from here? And it also doesn't help when I'm writing my long fic, because sometimes I get to chapters which are like not canon based, if that makes sense. Some of the chapters in that fic are based off specific episodes of the show, and I have a basis to kind of work off, but some chapters are completely from my own mind, and that means I have to come up with everything myself. And when I don't plan, that means those chapters take a while. For instance, if you've read that fic, then the Christmas chapter, that took me a while to write. And also chapters 20 and 21, because I knew what was happening in chapter 22, but like I didn't know how to get there. I kind of had to do some filler, and I realised I'm not very good at filler, okay? I am really happy with what I ended up with, but it took a while for me to get there. I was really cutting it close with getting the chapters up on time. And speaking of getting chapters up on time, that is my second bad habit, in that I am a procrastinator. I've said before in other videos that I like to have a buffer zone when I'm writing a multi-chapter fanfic, so if I'm posting, say, chapter 7, I've actually already written chapter 9, so I have like a couple of chapters to work with if I have like no time to write. But sometimes I have no time to write and then I burn through my buffer zone, and then I'm like, oh, no, I actually have to write. I don't have a choice here. I need to write something, you know? For instance, the next chapter of my long fic, chapter 23, is currently 700 words long. It goes up in like 48 hours. So I really need to write that, but here I am recording this instead. With the one-shots, it doesn't matter as much because they just go up when they're done, but with multi-chapter fics, I have to be like ready because I kind of have a posting schedule now, and I like that I have a schedule. But now I'm like, oh, I actually have to write all the time. And don't get me wrong, I love writing, but sometimes I just want to sit and read a fanfic or watch a TV show or watch a YouTube video or something. And I'm like, no, I have to write. You know, I have to sit and write and not get distracted. And right now, I really shouldn't be using my free time to write that. I should be writing my essays for university, which are due relatively soon, and 2 of which I have not started yet. The first one that's due in, I have started and will probably finish either later today. But the other 2, one's during the 7th of April and one's during the 17th of April, I have not started either of them. But I kind of have a plan to work on those at the weekends, which means I've got to write my fanfic this week. So in like the next 2 days, I've got to write chapter 23, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I've got to write chapter 24, so that's good to go out on Sunday. And then hopefully I'll also write chapter 25 in that time, so I have a buffer zone again. And you see my problem, okay? And this problem all started because I burned through my buffer zone once and I have not caught up since. I swore to myself I was going to catch up. Basically, in the first week of March, my uni had what's called a reading week, which is basically, it means you have no lectures for a week and you're supposed to use it to like work on your assignments. I did not. Originally, I planned to write my fanfic then, but then I filmed a YouTube video and was editing it, and that kind of all went out the window, so instead I posted a YouTube video and I didn't write much. But I'm hopeful that as soon as I'm done with all my uni assignments, I can devote more time to writing, and because I won't be going to lectures anymore, I can do writing like in the day more, which means I will actually catch up and have a buffer zone again. Fingers crossed. My next bad habit kind of relates to my first one, in that in the opposite of not planning, sometimes I plan too much. And this only happens very occasionally, and it's specifically for like specific chapters of my multi-chapter fic and that kind of thing. But sometimes I have such a specific idea of how this chapter is going to go that when things kind of don't go that way, I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And sometimes it kind of feels like I'm forcing the characters into a situation which I don't like to do, so then I end up changing my idea, but then my original idea, which I thought was really good, just kind of gets abandoned. For instance, for Intertwined, my current multi-chapter fic that I'm writing, writing, chapter 20 had a completely different plan originally, but it just didn't really fit. I'm actually probably going to end up reusing that idea for later in the fic, but it meant I had to come up with something completely new, like on the fly. Also, sometimes with some of the chapters that I've planned since like before I started the fic, it means like I know how that chapter is going to end, so that when I finish writing it, if it's not long enough, I have to go back and add stuff in. I can't just keep going because I know how that chapter is going to end, if that makes sense. The one I specifically had a problem with this for was chapter 11 of the multi-chapter fic, which if you've read the fic, you know it ends with kind of the big twist reveal, and I always knew that chapter would end that way. But when I finished writing the chapter, it was about 2,700 words, and each one of those chapters is at least 3,000, so I had to go back and add words in. I think it ended up being fine, but at the time, I was like freaking out about it. And that brings us nicely onto my next bad habit, in that I overthink things a lot. I will like read a sentence 5 times because I think something sounds wrong, and really it's fine. Like, it doesn't need changing and it's actually fine, but in my head it doesn't feel right, if that makes sense. Also, with all of my fics, even the one-shots and the multi-chapter fics, they're all written about American TV shows, and I use American English in all of the fics, which number one confuses my brain so much and confuses my keyboard so much that to this point I'm getting autocorrected into American English when I'm British. But it also means I'm second guessing like a lot of things, especially speech, because I'm always like, would Americans actually say that, or is that like a British phrase and I just don't know because I've grown up with it? I end up having to like imagine the character saying it in the show, like in their voice, and I'm like, does that sound like something they would say? Yes or no, you know what I mean? And the thing I find hardest with that is time, specifically talking about increments of time, because I found out recently in America, you guys don't say like 2:30. For us, 2:30 means 2:30. You're halfway past 2 o'clock. But apparently in America, you guys just don't say that. Also, like, I've realized when I'm watching American shows, when we would say like a half an hour, you guys would say a half hour, which for us is just wrong, but I try and put that in my fics to make it seem more American. To me, at least, it feels wrong to kind of shove like Britishisms and British spellings into fics about American TV shows, but that is just my personal like preference as an author. The words that tend to trip me up the most are the ones with the letter Z in, or well, if you're American, the ones with the letter Z in. Words like realised, which is a word I tend to use quite a lot. In the UK, we spell it with an S, but in the US, you guys spell it with a Z. So I always tend to get those the wrong way around. Also, words like organise, that you spell with a Z, we spell with an S. And then there's the ones where you drop U's for no reason, and I always have to double check, am I supposed to drop the U here? Like author, rumour, colour, all that kind of thing. I'm always double checking. Labour and favourite, I tend to spell favourite the British way, and then I have to go back and double check it because I want it to feel authentically American, which I know is stupid because it's a fanfic written by a British girl, but it's for an American TV show, so for me I want it to feel like it's actually like part of the show, and like if you could imagine it in your head it would make sense. Like, I want you to read the speech and be able to imagine the characters saying that, and I feel like if I put a British spelling in the middle of that, it kind of like takes you out of it a little bit. I'm probably describing this like really badly, but this is like how I think about it, okay? But my next fanfic writer bad habit is that I come up with ideas that then go nowhere. I have so many empty docs that just have a title and like maybe a sentence describing this idea I had like 6 months ago. I am most likely never gonna write any of these, but they're all there waiting. Mostly they come from me listening to songs, because a lot of the titles are like song lyrics and I've had an idea based off of that. Also with 911, when I'm getting ideas, it's because like I've just watched this episode of the show or whatever. And like some of these ideas were happening when season 8 was still like ending, and now we're almost at the end of season 9. I'm like, do I really want to write a one shot about some random episode right at the end of season 8? When I could be writing about whatever the hell's going on in season 9. Don't even talk to me about the current plotline of season 9, okay? We just had episode 14 last week. I'm so scared for what is to come, honestly. But anyway, hopefully one day I will actually sit and write all these fanfic ideas I've had. Maybe this summer is my chance to actually write all these one-shots that I had ideas for months and months ago. But my next bad habit is that I tend to let the music I'm listening to influence what I'm writing a little bit too much. I have a specific playlist which I listen to, number 1 when I'm driving, and number 2 when I'm writing fanfiction. It's not like a curated list. It's just kind of every song I hear on TikTok that I like, and that is basically the only criteria a song needs to get on this playlist. So it's kind of a mess, but sometimes when I'm writing a chapter, I'll find this song that I really like, so I'll just loop it while I'm writing this specific chapter. And sometimes that song's really angsty, and sometimes that kind of comes across in the writing. For instance, if you've read Intertwined, my long fic, at the end of chapter 17, Hayley writes a letter, and it's horrifically angsty, and that is the entire point of it. But while I was writing chapters 16, 17, and 18, I'm pretty sure, the only song I was listening to on loop was The Great Divide. And if you've heard that song, you know it's pretty angsty. And that letter at the end of chapter 17 was not in my original plan for that chapter. it kind of just came to me and I thought, why not do it? And I think that's because I was listening to that song. Sometimes this works really well. If like I'm writing an angsty chapter and listening to angsty music, obviously that makes sense. But sometimes if I'm writing a happy chapter or trying to write a happier chapter, I'm listening to angsty music, sometimes the chapter can take a bit of an angsty turn. Should I apologise for that? Probably, but I'm not going to, because, you know, we love a bit of angst here. Also, it does work the other way in that sometimes I can intend to write a bit of an angsty chapter by listening to a happy song, so it kind of veers off into a bit more of a fluffy direction. And those chapters usually end up being like mainly fluffy, and then at the end they'll have like an angsty turn. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bit devastating, but either way, it's going in the fic. But anyway, I can feel my voice starting to go, so I should probably stop talking. If you like the sound of any of the fanfics I've been talking about, my AO3 profile will be linked down below if you want to go check them out. Also, if you enjoyed the video, while you're down there, maybe leave a like, or maybe even subscribe. I post a bunch of videos all about fanfiction and TV shows and all that kind of stuff, so if you like that kind of thing, maybe consider subscribing. Also, in the description, there'll be links to my Twitter and TikTok accounts if you want to follow me over there. I post new fanfiction related TikToks literally every single day, so if you like that kind of thing, you might enjoy what I do over there. And just before I go, I wanted to say a massive thank you for all the support on my last video. I'm filming this like 3 days after the video came out, and it's currently on like 1,000 views, which might sound really small, but to me, this is my most popular video ever, and it's kind of insane. So thank you for watching it, thank you for enjoying it, and for those of you who have subscribed from it, this is probably your first like new video of mine that you're seeing, so hi, welcome. Also, I should say, if you have any like TV show you want me to talk about, or some aspect of fanfiction you want me to talk about, leave it in the comments down below, because I will probably do it. So yeah, I've been Claudia, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye!